In this lesson, we are going to learn about an important concept called encapsulation. Encapsulation is also sometimes referred as data hiding. We are going to see why encapsulation is important and why it is also sometimes referred as data hiding. But before going into those details, let's look at what we have done so far. Here we have created a class called myDate and it has three fields: year, month, day. Also, this has a method called isLeapYear. After creating this class, we have created three objects: myDate, myDate2, myDate3, and we have assigned some values to this object or all the three objects. Then we have invoked the method on all these three objects. We have seen not only how to assign the values but how to read the values, how to invoke the method. In all these cases, we are going to use the dot operator to access those things. Okay, so far so good. So now we are going to see what might be wrong with this approach and how can we make it better. Okay, now here we have assigned a value called 2017 January 1st. So let me run it once before I make any change. So this is the same class that we have created in the last class and no changes are being done. Okay, this is where we have left out 2017 January 1st, 2012 January 1st, and we have assigned some random value. So here we can clearly see the data or the values that we have assigned to this particular object myDate3 are invalid. There is no date called 100, year 100, and without mentioning the January 1st or anything. So also here, if I assign some value like 35, which is surely a wrong date for a particular date in a year 2017 January, there is nothing that is preventing us from assigning the wrong values. So here now let me run the same program. Okay, here we can clearly see that we have date objects but they have invalid date. The data is not valid inside these objects. So these objects or the class has to make sure at any given point in time throughout the program, at any given point, it should have valid values only. So the whatever values we save in this year, month and day, they should be valid. In no case they should be corrupted, just like what we did now. So the class has to make sure no one can assign wrong values, just like this. So what can class do? What is the best thing that class can do to make sure no one will assign wrong values? The best thing it can do is to make sure no one can assign any value, right? If no one can assign any value, obviously no one can assign wrong values. So to do that, what this class is going to do is, it's going to say, I have three fields, but they are not for public use. They are not for others to assign. They are my private fields. So it is going to use a keyword called private. Okay, now the year is private field. So this is visible only inside this class. Outside the class, it is not visible. So here you can see you are able to assign a value to month, day. Also you are able to read month and day, but you are not able to do anything with year. So if you click here, it says year has private access. So that means I can't assign a value. So let's do the same thing for month and day also. So now all the fields, they are private to this class. They are not visible. They are not accessible outside this class. So when I say they are not accessible outside the class, here you can see anywhere outside this class you are getting the errors, but inside the class here you are using the field year, but you are not getting any error. So inside the class, the method can access this field. Okay, now so we have achieved our objective. Now we have make sure, or the class is making sure no one can assign any wrong value, but it has to give a way. There should be some way to assign values to these fields. There should be some way to read the fields. Otherwise, there is no use, right? I mean, so in this particular case, okay, so if there is a date field, I should be able to read what is the year, what is the month, what is the day. So there should be some way to access these fields and assign values to these fields. For that purpose, we are going to create some methods, okay, some member methods. Because these fields are private, the methods that are going to operate on these fields, or the methods that we are going to create, they are going to be public. Okay, first let's start with year. We want to assign value to year. How can we assign value to year? So basically we want to set some value inside year. So the method will be called set year. So here we are going to follow camel case, but it starts with lowercase as we did with is leap year. Okay, now we have method name. How do we make it a method? So we have to use parenthesis. Then this method is going to have a body, and when we are setting, so we have to assign some value to this field called year. Okay, where are we going to get this value? We have to get it from outside. So this is the value is going to be an input parameter for this method. So here we are going to define a variable y, and we are going to assign that value to here. This particular method, it has a name, it has some input parameter which will be assigned to the field year. Okay, because this method is not returning any data. Previously we have seen that is leap year is returning some boolean value, but set year is not returning any data. So how can it say I am not returning any data? So just by mentioning void, or I am not going to return anything, it has to specify void as a return type. Okay, let's do the same thing for month and day also. Okay, we have created setters for year, month and day. Let's go ahead and use them. So instead of assigning the value 2017, what we can do is set year 2017. Okay, similarly set month, similarly set day. Okay, let me do the same thing for object 2 and object 3 also. Okay, we have completed setting the values. So to read, we have to use get year, not just year, get year. Okay, what did I do? Okay, I did not create getters. So let me create those getters. To get the year, we are going to write to get year. This is not going to have any input parameters, and it is going to return the year. So because year is a integer value, we have to mention integer as a return type. So let's do the same thing for month. Okay, now here instead of year, just I can use get year and get month, get day. Let me do the same thing for other objects. Okay, let's run this program. Okay, still there is some error. Okay, now everything is good. Let's go ahead and run it. Okay, so now everything is working properly. So instead of assigning the values directly, we are going through assign and read the value of year, month and day through some methods. They are called setters and getters. Okay, so here I'm going to comment. These are not regular methods. They have some properties like setters and getters. Okay, so far so good. Now let's talk about the problem that we were having previously. So let me assign some value 35 or 36. So if I run it now, Okay, now again we have ended up with the same situation where it is the method call is corrupting the data. So now now how can I make sure there is no corruption in our objects data? So what I can do is, before assigning the day, I can validate whether it is a valid date or not. So here I can say if day greater than 1 and day less than 31st, then only do this assignment. If that is not the case, assign some January 1st. This is not the best thing to do. I mean, this is somewhat better, but it is not the best thing. But now let's look at the values. So now, even though we tried, we are not able to corrupt the data. So the class is making sure the data is never corrupted. In this case only day, but it can do the same thing for month. Let's do the same thing for month also. Okay. Okay, now even if we try to corrupt the month value, like by giving something like 15, we are not able to corrupt it. So by making sure you can access the access the fields through these methods which are inside this class itself, you are able to make sure from outside they can't corrupt the data. So this is what is encapsulation. So in case of the encapsulation rule says the member fields should be modified only by member methods. Okay, I am repeating the statement because it is very important. The encapsulation says that the member fields should be modified or should be accessible only to the member methods. So even though we are calling them as setters and getters, nonetheless they are member methods. Okay, that is the encapsulation. Why are we calling it data hiding? So if we see outside, we don't know that there is a field called year, month, day. Also we don't know that it is of type integer. So if I change it to long, okay, there may be some method failure, but because when we are returning year, we have to typecast to int. But if I change the data type, there is nothing that is preventing me from doing that. Okay, so that is the benefit of encapsulation. The data types or whatever you want to change inside, you can change it inside the class. No one is going to get affected. Also no one is going to corrupt them. So that is the main thing. No one should be able to corrupt the fields. So that is what we have achieved through these setters and getters. Also we have implemented the encapsulation principle for this class. Okay, so now you may be thinking that previously it was so easy. Like, I mean, I have 3 fields, I am assigning some values and I am reading that values. But to do the same thing, you have to create 6 methods. Here you have 3 fields and you created 6 methods, right? Maybe you have 10 fields. Then in that case, you have to create 20 methods. And creating all these methods is going to take time. So what IDE does is it will provide you the way to create these getters and setters. Okay, let me delete these getters and setters to show you. I deleted all of them. Here you can see they all are complaining because they are not available there. So here I can click here, I can press Alt Insert. It is going to give me a pop-up. I'm going to select getters and setters and I'm going to generate them for day, month and year. Okay, now we have all those methods back. You don't need to create them. So creating getters and setters It's not a difficult thing. Let me do it one more time. So here I have removed everything. Here I am pressing Alt Insert and it shows me a pop-up window, and I am clicking getters and setters. I am selecting all the objects and I am generating all the getters and setters. Okay, this is where I am going to stop this particular lesson. So what have we learned in this lesson? In this lesson, we made the fields, the member fields, private so that no one can assign any value. What is the reason to make sure no one can assign any value? The reason is we want to make sure no one can assign any wrong value. So we have went an extra mile and said, okay, not only bad values, you can't assign any values. But to make this fields available, we have created getters and setters. Through setters, they can assign the value. But through setters, they can also try to corrupt the value. But the class can save itself, or the class can save its integrity of the value by doing some validation inside the setters before applying or before assigning those values that it received from the outside programs. Okay, one more thing. Here, whenever you call these getters, the internal state of this object doesn't change. Okay, that is all about encapsulation, data hiding, and getters and setters. We are going to continue our discussion in the next lesson. Thank you. Last but not least, make sure you subscribe to Manohar Academy so that you will receive alerts whenever I upload a new video or a new concept. Also, if you are benefited from this video, make sure you share it with your friends so that they can also learn. It is very important that you share it with your friends so that they can learn. Also, make sure you subscribe. Thank you. Welcome to Manohar Academy one more time, and I will see you in the next lesson.